What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you all are having a wonderful and blessed day. So, week 1 of the AAF is in the books, and boy, must I say, we are going to be in store for some great football. So today I just kind of want to give you guys my takeaways from week 1, talk a little bit about each of the games individually. But guys, if you're not already, be sure and hit that subscribe button, turn the bell notification on, that way you know when my next video comes out. Again, can't thank you guys enough. You guys are completely crushing it. Loving all of your comments, so keep those rolling. All right, guys, so I want to give you guys a quick disclaimer. I want to bring out these weekly videos. However, I want to kind of shift them to more of my takeaways versus just strictly highlights. I already feel like there's a ton of places that you can go out there and see just highlights from the game, as well as I'm not trying to get sued by anybody for copyright stuff. So most of what you're going to see in these videos are going to be my takeaways week to week. I'm going to break down each game individually and then kind of recap at the end for you guys. But enough of me rambling. Let's get into it. So right off the bat, I want to say that I believe we are in store for some great football this season. I don't know about you guys, but I'm more excited now after week 1 than I was when the season started. I know there was a lot of hype around this league, a lot of question marks, and a lot of those kinks, they are still working out, the app being one of those. I don't know if you guys have downloaded it yet, but I'll link a description below where you can actually find that. For me, the in-game play-by-play, pick the next play points thing really didn't ever work. I had to uninstall and reinstall the app about 3 or 4 times. But again, I expected that. I didn't think that all the kinks would be worked out right away. Part of the reason I felt that they kept delaying the app's launch is because they were still working through some of those kinks. But anyway, we have an app out now where you can at least look at the games and stream them. All right, first game up is going to be the San Diego Fleet at the San Antonio Commanders. I personally, this was the game that I got to watch. For those of you who don't know, Saturday, both games were on simultaneously at the same time. So my area, I actually live in Texas, so I got the Commanders game, and boy, was it a good game. So right off the bat, you probably have all seen the hit by now, with Sean Washington obliterating, for lack of a better term, Berkovici. I'll go ahead and throw a picture of that up right now. But this was probably the highlight of all highlights, maybe the hit of the season, who knows. But huge crushing hit. The part that I loved about it most though, guys, there were no flags, no ejections. Berkovici got up, kept playing, we moved on, and we played football. So for the first time in 10-15 years, I actually got to witness a football game that wasn't dictated by the officials. That right off the bat, guys, I'm going to love this league. If that's the way that it continues, I'm going to love this league. And I think fans are too. I mean, fans across the board have responded to that hit. The AAF was actually trending on Twitter. I think it came from a little bit of a surprise to most, but they were trending, as well as their ratings for that night. They outdid the ABC NBA game between, I believe, the Thunder and the Rockets. So higher ratings than that. They were kind of the showcase for the weekend, and it was awesome. But anyway, let's get back to the game. So Berkovici was the starter. If you remember my previous video, I talked about he didn't really single-handedly win out the starting job. The Fleet lost their quarterback in the offseason to go to the Redskins, Josh Johnson. So Berkovici kind of was the next guy up, so to speak. He didn't finish the game. It wasn't because of the hit. He played pretty poorly, and Mike Martz had seen enough by the second half. So he finished 15-25 with 176 yards and 2 interceptions, and then was benched for Philip Nelson. Philip Nelson finished out the game. Nelson didn't fare too much better, though. He ended up having an interception as well. So not really anything going for them. Gavin Escobar was kind of their bright spot, as he was the leading receiver. He had 4 catches for 66 yards. And then my standout player for the Fleet's defense was Ryan Moeller. He stood out to me because he led the team with 5 tackles, 2 pass deflections, and an INT. A lot more that he did that didn't still show up on the stat sheet. He was in on almost every single play. whether it be from a coverage standpoint, a tackle standpoint, just a guy that was around the ball a lot. So he's my key player on defense for them. On the Commanders side of the ball, Logan Woodside was their starting quarterback. He went 18 of 36 for 225 yards. He did throw 2 interceptions though, so I won't say that he had a terrible game, but he didn't have a great game either. The bright spot for me on this Commanders offense, they kind of have a three-headed monster at the receiving core. Mikael McKay, Greg Ward Jr., and Alonzo Moore, they lit it up in this game, guys. Even though Woodside did not have the best outing, these guys still combined, they went 13 catches for 233 yards. All of them had pretty much monster days. Woodside spread the ball around really nicely. Would have liked to seen, you know, those 2 interceptions off of the stat sheet. Can't really throw those picks and win football games. But those 3 receivers, they were catching pretty much everything that was thrown their way within their vicinity. And the defense, guys. Commanders' defense was huge in this game. They had 6 sacks, 3 interceptions. And for those of you who don't know, there are incentives in this league for defensive players. So every time you show up on the stat sheet, sack, interception, there's incentives and you get paid for those. So I do like that about this league. The harder you play, the more you show up, the more money you're going to make. But the final score, guys, Commanders came away with the win, 15-6. The other game that night was between the Atlanta Legends and the Orlando Apollos. For those of you who don't remember, Orlando had the most, or I said had the most NFL star roster. So there was a lot of hype behind Orlando, and they did not disappoint. But let's talk about the Legends first. So this game, I didn't really get to watch much of this game because I had to stream it while I was kind of watching the Commanders game because that's what I got for my regional broadcast. But I'll give you some of my key takeaways. So there was a iconic moment, so to speak. The first ever point scored in this league for its inaugural season came from the Legends. It was a field goal by, and I'm probably going to butcher this name, Young Ho Koo. So he had the first points ever for the league, so he made history with that. There was a surprising stat to me, though, on the Atlanta side. We talked a lot about Malachi Jones leading up to this during the preseason. He was their star receiver, was their #1 receiver. He came away with no catches in this one. He was targeted 7 times and he didn't even register on the stat sheet. So I don't know, like I said, didn't watch the game, so I don't know if that was a testament to Orlando's defense or he just had a bad game and was dropping passes. I don't know. All I know is no catches, 7 targets, not looking good when that's your star receiver. Matt Sims was the starting quarterback. I know in a previous video I said that Aaron Murray was kind of their key guy to watch. Looks like Matt Sims beat him out for the starting job. So Matt Sims played almost the entire game except for late in the 4th quarter. Game was well out of hand. Aaron Murray came in during damage control. But Matt Sims finished he went 15 of 28 for 126 yards. Had 2 interceptions. I believe one of those was returned for a touchdown. So we had our first ever, another iconic moment, pick 6. But on to the Apollos. Apollos lit it up, guys. They looked really good. All of the hype leading up to it, they definitely stood up to that hype. Garrett Gilbert was solid. He lit up the Legends. He went 15 of 25 for 227 yards. He had 2 passing touchdowns and actually caught a touchdown kind of on a reverse wide receiver pass. The Orlando special is what they're dubbing it. Their defense was fast and overwhelming most of the night. You could tell by the stats that I just rattled off for the Legends. They couldn't get much going against that defense. Terrence Garvin led the defense. He had 8 tackles and 2 pass deflections. Final score on this one in a rout: Apollos 40, Legends 6. And again, I do feel a little bit bad for Atlanta because I know leading up to this, within the last month, they had a ton of things happen. Part of them out of their control. I said that Childress, their head coach, he retired. So they did not have their normal coach, as well as a day before kickoff, Michael Vick was no longer, or he was given a different title. He was no longer the offensive coordinator. So kind of a crash course for their OC. So hopefully they can get things lined out. I'm going to kind of chalk it up to the route, so to speak, to 2 things. One, Orlando is as good as we thought that they were, and the Legends are trying to overcome some of those off-field personnel issues. But anyway, that wrapped up Saturday's game. on to Sunday's matchups. So Sunday, first out of the gate, we had the Memphis Express and Birmingham Iron. And guys, I was actually very impressed with this game. There were some surprising things. I'm going to start on the Express's side of the ball, or Express side of the football game. Hackenberg was the starting quarterback. He beat out Zach Mettenberger. Hackenberg never looked comfortable the whole game. I don't know if they're going to make a quarterback change or he just had a bad game, but he was shaky in my opinion. I was surprised though. If you remember in a previous video, whenever I was given the rankings, I thought that this being a Mike Singletary team with them having Zach Stacy in the backfield, that they would be a run first, play action, pass type team. They really didn't run the ball at all. Not near what I thought that they should have anyway, especially playing Birmingham. They couldn't get anything going against that defense. I'll talk about that here in a bit. But Zach Stacy went 12 for 58. I would have liked to seen his carries more in the 20 to 25 carry range. I think that's going to be the formula for them to be able to win games going forward. I thought that their offensive mindset going into this game, their scheme, their game plan was terrible. The passes that they did throw, they didn't try to throw anything deep to kind of open up for that run game. Everything was short, dink and dunk. They looked confused. I'm hoping Singletary gets it together and they can bring out a better product, but they did not look good on the offensive side of the ball. Defensive side of the ball, they looked solid. They held their own for most of the game, but when your offense is going 3 and out and you're putting that defense back on the field, back on the field, back on the field, eventually they broke. But onto the Iron. So Trent Richardson was their star player. He did not look good in my opinion until late in the game. He did end up finishing with 2 touchdowns, but he also had a costly fumble that set the Express up inside the red zone. But for most of the game, guys, it didn't look good to me. But like I said, he did finish with a nice game. He finally got some things going there late. Ended up with 2 touchdowns as well as a 2-point conversion. The Iron defense, though, that defense is solid. And again, nothing flashy with them. Uniforms aren't flashy. Their players aren't flashy. They were solid in their tackling. Solid, sound tackling. I can't recall very many, if any, missed tackles. You know, the first man hit the guy, he was going down. And that was huge for them. Huge. Final score in this one was the Iron 26, the Express 0. So another iconic milestone. We had our first shutout ever. Also, it is noted we had our first missed call via the replay. So I do like the fact that we can hear everything that's going through the person that's overviewing the play or replay official. I like that we can hear their thoughts. However, it was pretty blatant to me, guys, that pass hit the ground. They said that they couldn't see, they couldn't tell if his arm was underneath it or not, but it was pretty obvious to me, it was pretty obvious to the announcers, and it was also pretty obvious to Mike Singletary. They had him mic'd up. But other than that, guys, officiating's been solid throughout, but that was a missed call in my opinion. All right, on to the late night game, the last game of week 1. This one going into it was touted kind of as the game of the week. So this was the Salt Lake Stallions and Arizona Hotshots, and it did not disappoint, guys. This in my opinion was probably, I won't say it was the best game, it was the most entertaining game. And that's what I liked about this week. You kind of had something for everybody. You know, if you were that defensive, low scoring game, you had that style of game. If you liked, you know, the high-powered offense shootout, you had that style of game. So there was kind of something for everybody. But let's get into it. Salt Lake Stallions. So Josh Woodrum went out in the second quarter. He was matching the Hotshots pound for pound up to that point. It was really back and forth, back and forth. He ended up with a hamstring injury. I don't know, they didn't really disclose too much on it, but he left. And in the second half, Matt Linehan finished out the game. Braden Oliver was their leading rusher, which I talked a lot about Matt Asiata in my previous video, but I completely forgot that Brandon Oliver was on this team. He had 8 carries for 40 yards. He didn't have the most carries on the team, but his carries were the most productive. I was a little surprised. Matt Asiata only had 4 carries for 4 yards. He did have a touchdown, however, so I'm guessing instead of him being the workhorse, they're going to use him more in third and short or goal line situations. but he came away with the lone touchdown. They looked good on both sides of the ball. I believe they're going to do just fine. I'm not sure how long their starting quarterback's going to be out, but let's move on to the hot shots. So the hot shots, they have some offensive firepower, guys. I was impressed. John Wolford, everybody was talking about Garrett Gilbert leading up to this game because Gilbert had the best stats of any quarterback. And then we got the John Wolford show. Because, guys, he went 18 of 29 for 275 yards and 4, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4 touchdowns. No interceptions, so he had a clean sheet. Leading rusher for that team was Jarrell Presley, 18 carries for 64 yards. He also had a receiving touchdown. Their leading receiver, though, guys, Rashad Ross, he looked good. Dude is going to be a stud. He had 5 catches, 103 yards, and 2 touchdowns. By far the best stat line of any wide receiver in the league for week 1. Final score in this one, Hot Shots 38, Stallions 22. This was our highest scoring game. Both of these teams went back and forth. I believe that it would have even been a closer, more competitive game had Woodrum not went out with that hamstring injury in the second quarter, because like I said, they were matching blow for blow. But all in all, guys, great game, great week 1 in my opinion. It was exciting to me. I haven't been excited for football like this in a long time. I know a lot of you guys talked about the Super Bowl. I didn't even watch the Super Bowl. I know that it was a sleeper, so to speak. But this league is exciting to me. I love the fact that they just let the guys play. We got back to the roots. We were just playing football here. And everybody's competing. Everybody's hungry because they want to try to make it to that next level. Officials, I thought they did a great job. They did just enough to make the calls, but didn't do so much that I felt like they dictated the game. Take note, NFL, that's huge. This was kind of a trial and error. My first time ever doing these highlight, quote-unquote, takeaway videos. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. Like I said, I don't want to throw too many video clips from the games in there because I just don't want to deal with the copyright infringement. But in the comment section, let me know. Is there a way that I can get around that? Let me know if you like this. All right, guys, be sure and hit that subscribe button. Turn the bell notification on. That way you know when my next video comes out. And if you like this content, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button. Let me know that you like it. All right, guys, I'm out.